How's it going, guys? Joe here. Today I'm going to be looking at the data that was first collected. So, without further ado, let's just get started. So, at this point, I've actually run the app for one night ever since I got logging working. Um, so, I've collected an entire night's worth of data, and it appears to have worked pretty well. So, I'm just going to do like a first analysis and kind of show you what that would look like on video, but I'm going to be doing analysis on multiple nights, but I thought I would demonstrate the first one, so that's what we're doing here. Also, as you could probably tell, I got the audio issue fixed. So, turns out that I not only had to mess with the setting in OBS, but I also had to mess with it on my system itself. That somehow changed. I don't know why, but I think we're good now. So, I feel like that comparison I did with the mics last night was unfair because of this issue. I think now it'll be more fair, so I'm going to do a real quick comparison with this mic versus the webcam. So, I think I'm going to still go with this one because it works pretty much wherever I happen to go, and also live unlike before too, mainly with this computer anyway. So, let's switch it around once. So, I mean, I think you can probably hear me okay, but the microphone's most certainly going to be a lot more echoey and stuff, and probably not as great when I get over here. There's just a lot of inconsistencies with it overall, I think, but I think it'll probably be better with the microphone that I'm wearing. I don't know for sure if it's better, but I think with a decent volume it should be a lot better. So yeah, let's go with this. So anyway, let's get started. So yeah, I apologize about that. I'm going to be double checking it from now on. I did kind of double check it. I noticed something was a little bit different, but I was thinking it would end up being fine, and I kind of wanted to get started yesterday, but I figured out exactly what's going on, so it's all good now. So anyway, let's take a look at the data that was actually collected. So before we even do that, I would like to show that I ended up mostly getting that problem figured out where the second was either only 0 or 30. So you may remember from before, um, so as you can see, it's kind of hard to see the screen, but the time on the left says it's got a second of either 0 or 30. And every once in a while it would go to like 31 or 01 or 29, 59. I like it when it lines up because the way the sleep chart actually works is 0 or 30 as well. So I kind of like this to line up with that. I ended up writing that in the program. If you saw the last live stream, I suppose I should link that in the description when I get a chance. But I was going to mention I ended up doing a bunch of trial and error and figured out an ideal way to do this. So I'm so sorry. You haven't been hearing me, have you? Great. I'm so sorry about that. Disregard all that stuff I said before. So, um, honestly, most of the time I was thinking anyway, so let's just do this again. So, I was talking about how the second is either 0 or 30, and I ended up figuring out what seems to work really well, and of course I'm getting the millisecond before and after it does its calculation. It might take like 5 milliseconds to do what it's doing, and that can throw off the second on here with the interval. So I'm essentially having it figure out about how long it takes and then keep changing the interval according to how long it takes so that the second always lines up with 0 or 30, because my sleep chart does 0 or 30 for the second on the data points that it records, so it kind of works nicely. So anyway, that's how I'm doing that. So I think this is a formula, and I kind of shocked myself that I had end time plus start time. I thought it would be end time minus start time. So if I want to figure out how quickly something happened and the start time is like 600 milliseconds and 605, well, 605 minus 600 is 5 milliseconds. Therefore, it took roughly 5 milliseconds. So that's what I believe is going on. So yeah, I think I got the right formula. This actually worked throughout the entire night. That's kind of what I was saying before. But yeah, I kind of apologize about not having the microphone on before. I think it should work fine now though. So I'm going to try to analyze the data and essentially see if there's any meaning I can get out of it. So this is today's sleep chart. I didn't really get to bed at a very good time. Recently I have, so I've been pretty proud of that. I've been getting up a couple hours earlier than I normally do, and still getting close to 8 hours of sleep each night. And that's something I haven't achieved for a really long time, so that's nice. But last night wasn't great, so this is probably not the best chart to analyze, but I'm just gonna kind of see if there's any meaning I can get out of this. So I'm gonna try to use my old webcam so you can see my screen and see exactly how the data collection ended up working. So I don't really have a good way to get a nice view live, but I'm gonna try it anyway. So I have a USB hub that's got 4 ports on it, but I didn't get the one where you plug it into an external power source. Kind of regret that, because power delivery is actually kind of a problem. You take one USB port, you convert it into 4. The power delivery is only the equivalent of 1 port. It's split between them, all of them, so that's not really great. So the only reason that's a problem is if I were to like plug in this webcam, it's probably going to cause all sorts of things to break. I've got 3 things hooked up there right now: my microphone, the Steam controller, which is what I use to quickly change the scenes. I was going to use my Stream Deck, but unfortunately it doesn't provide enough power for that. If I got one where you plug it into an external power source, that seemed really inconvenient, and I didn't think I'd really be using it for stuff like this, but it is actually a problem. So the bandwidth is also split between each one of them. That hasn't been a problem, but power delivery has. And honestly, if if I did it through the charging port that I have on my Intel NUC, that provides a lot more power than all the other USB ports, so I bet it would be enough for that. But the NUC has a lot more ports as it is, so kind of out of luck there. So when I plug in the webcam, this draws a lot less power than my new one right here does, but it's on the verge of running out of power, and it kind of causes things to break. It kind of works, but kind of doesn't. It worked for a while when I first tried it, but then it kept kicking out. So the moral of the story is I'm only going to be able to plug in one webcam at a time. When I plug this one in, I'm going to have to unplug that one. So, oh well. See, I could go like this, but the audio might start cutting out because that's where the microphone's hooked up, and keyboard and mouse will glitch. I'm actively watching the waveform, so I'll be able to tell if it kicks out. And then Steam controller, which acts like a keyboard, that's what I'm using right here. It allows me to like quickly switch scenes and stuff. If I want to display what the webcam shows, I don't have it selected right now because it registers as two separate devices for some reason. I don't see it. Oh, there it is. Let's see if the power cuts. Right now, yep, it just has. See how the audio is cutting out? Power delivery is on the verge. The webcam keeps appearing and disappearing for that exact same reason. I'm not going to do that. That's not very ideal. Yeah, this controller keeps shutting off too. That's a good way to tell if it happens. It barely has enough power doing this alone with the Steam controller, keyboard and mouse, and microphone. Oh, and the Steam controller, I have it do it wirelessly. If there was power in the Steam controller, that might not be enough power. But I'm using rechargeable batteries with it, so I'm not going to complain there. And I like to be able to leave it on for a long time just because it's always on, and I'm using rechargeable batteries anyway. I apologize about not being on the point. That's how things go when it's live though. So I'm going to plug in the other webcam. Let's see how that works. And thanks to me having my microphone hooked up, I'm not relying on the webcam's microphone, so that's not a problem. Okay, I just plugged in the other webcam, and I bet I have to switch it again. Keyboard or mouse. The mouse isn't working. Something's wrong with the mouse. The mic seems to be working fine. May just have to reconnect the receiver. There we go. So I'm going to switch the webcam input. And since I can't really use that anyway, I may as well make it cover up the full screen pretty much. Pretty distorted as it is, so I don't mind distorting it a little more. I have it like really focused. It's got a wider field of view, but oh yeah, this is the microphone system. Since I forgot my microphone cord, I'm using my long USB cable, and I have all these binder clips because it kind of falls off. So I have a binder clip holding another binder clip right here, and I'm seeing how well that works. Screen just went black. Well, can you see stuff now? Are you able to see stuff now? I imagine there's a huge delay. Okay, that's good. So, um, this is how I'm going to view my screen, and I can't mess with the focus, unfortunately. By the way, can you hear me all right? It looks like you should be able to, but I don't know that for sure. So that's what the log looks like at the very beginning. So that first, yeah, this comes down to just trying to make things work with what I have. It works pretty well. The fact that I could just kind of do it right on the bin is really nice, and then it's always out of the way. The only reason I put binder clips there is so that this doesn't keep moving all the time. And then this cord is like pretty long actually. So I have another binder clip hooking it up to my pants, and that's how the microphone's hooked up. Then I can walk like, oh, the webcam doesn't have enough range. Let's see how quickly I can hot swap the other webcam. You should be able to hear me regardless of which webcam's hooked up. That's the nice part about the mic. I could like walk all the way over here, even live, and you should be able to hear me just as well. So that's why I like doing the system this way. I was having some problem with the volume before. Oh, that's sweet. Glad you can hear me okay. So, boy, when I'm doing stuff live like this, it's almost impossible to get to the point. I feel like I'm either rambling or dealing with technical difficulties. Almost only like 5% of it is actually doing stuff. So live streaming is not always the best idea. Yeah, the Fitbit's unfortunately blurry because I don't have any control over the focus. I suppose I could try using that webcam, but then I'd have to keep grabbing it. You know, I think I'll just try it once. Yeah, I unfortunately have no control over the focus. This thing has, oh, that looks a lot better. I just wish I had a good place to set this down or something. I could wear this on myself, maybe then it'll sort of be like first person. Let's try it once. That's the beauty of live streams. You can experiment with stuff like that. There we go. I'm completely hands-free now. So that actually does work pretty well. Yeah, this would be a pretty good alternative. Okay then, so as long as I'm doing this, I may as well pull up the screen once and I'll duplicate the webcam. I know it's very unprofessional to modify stuff like this on the spot. I apologize about being very unprofessional. If you want to dislike the video, that's fine with me. You have my blessings. But let's see if we can get this working. Why is the bounding a little weird here? So the idea is I'm going to temporarily turn this other one off and make this bigger. Actually, I'm probably going to put it in the bottom corner because if I want to be able to see my sleep chart side by side, then I can go like this. And then we can do a live comparison. How's this idea work out? I can kind of see whether it's in focus or not, so I'll try my best with that. I think I'll make it camera a little bit bigger too, because I don't actually need a whole lot of room. Let's see. Oh, I'm messing with the wrong screen. I thought the cursor was on the OBS window when it was just on the screen. Boy, you can see how difficult things can be when live. I cannot imagine a professor trying to do stuff like this live too. Like, yeah. Okay, I think this will probably work if the focus would just work a lot better. Yeah, so pretty easy to see. And I would make it so the screen doesn't fall asleep as frequently, but unfortunately I have to get out of the app, which means I'm going to lose all the data. There are ways to work around this, however, um, that's not really great. Okay, so I wish it would focus when it's like this close. There. So that's all the data. So that the time followed by heart rate followed by the XYZ movement. So if I want to try to make anything out of it, oh, then I'm really proud of how I made the clock disappear when the text is over that. Um, that's where we play a game where we try to maybe have it dodge slowly, then you try to hit it, and then maybe the screen will turn green if you successfully hit it or something. That'd be kind of an interesting game. So this is of course while I'm still awake, because that's a lot of motion. But um, let's see here. So um, the thing that makes this a little bit tricky is knowing when I actually woke up from a dream. I went to bed really late last night, so usually I do remember waking up between 6 and 7. Um, so I'm making this app because I wanted to detect. Um, the smart alarm can only do a 30-minute time range, and I figured if I could find a correlation with the sensors, and I could use that to increase the time range. Then let's say I want to do it anytime after 6. Then I could have it literally wake me up pretty much anytime after 6. That's what's nice about that approach, because then I could just literally be like, anytime after 6, do that. And it could be anytime after 7 too, because I could say anytime after 6. It may not even happen until 7:30. I don't know that, but if I was able to accurately detect with the sensors, then that would accomplish a similar effect with a greater time range. Right now I'm just collecting data to see if there is any correlation. So yeah, I think I'll continue analyzing it in the way that I already was. So let's see. Yeah, I'll put it back on. So this is at so I can see that at 3:40 I had heart rate of 61 with zero motion at all within the 30-second period, and that correlates with let me pull up the sleep chart again. So of course this isn't going to be 100% accurate, but I have noticed that it pretty accurately detects when I wake up from a dream though. So, and that's all I'm targeting here. So I'm doing it based on what I can confirm with what actually happened. But I'm just kind of looking at it overall just to see if there's any correlation, because I don't even know Like, I don't even remember waking up, like, right here. I have such a vague memory that I don't even know if it for sure happened. So, that's what makes this a little tricky. Um, so, where it says, I have an easier time looking at it on the screen than I do here. And I'm sure the stream's cutting out every once in a while. There's a little network inconsistency sometimes. So like at 3:39 for example, I was supposedly in light sleep, but we don't know that for sure, obviously. What's so special about deep sleep? Like 3:44. I can't really tell exactly. Come on, focus. Is it just because it's consistently low? Kind of curious to see exactly how it. Yeah, I don't think I should really be looking at this area because I can't really. I suppose it's just because that heart rate, which is, see how there's like a time, then a semicolon, and then heart rate, and XYZ movement. I'm trying to see if there's any correlation. This is the first data that I managed to successfully collect. So I'm seeing if I can make anything of it. And I'll keep doing that for a few days probably. So right here I'm supposedly in deep sleep. Maybe it's because I'm cutting in and out of, like my heart rate is going to like 50 some and then 60. Maybe if it constantly does that, I'm in deep sleep. I really don't know. But that's not even what I'm targeting in the first place. I'm just seeing if I can make anything out of what's going on. This isn't a really good way to view the data, but I've looked at so many other options. Trust me, this is by far the easiest. For a while, I didn't even know you could scroll like this, by the way. So 403, there was some motion, it looks like. So that's actually, yeah, awake for 1 minute 30 seconds supposedly. And it probably detects that from the motion, and then all of a sudden there's a dip in heart rate. So that kind of makes sense. Wouldn't be in deep sleep if that were happening unless the parasomnia was occurring. So all of a sudden there's no more motion. Is there anything special that happens at 4:28 right here when I go into REM? I'm just gonna see, because if I want to detect it, me coming out of REM, then I want to first detect me going in theory. So 4:28, anything special happened there? So heart rate's in the low 60s, definitely asleep. Boy, I can't tell anything special at all. Oh, other than all of a sudden here the heart rate's going up and yet there's no motion. That sounds like dreaming to me. If heart rate is high but there's no motion, or if it suddenly dips down, then that could totally be part of the dream, and because everything takes place in your head, then it can fluctuate that much. So these are really only data points every 30 seconds like the sleep chart does. And I just have to hope it lines up nicely. So the thing I'm curious about is these red marks right here. Am I actually getting out of REM, or am I just happening to make motion that's not really under my control, like just slightly adjusting my position unconsciously? Could that be happening? So for 46:30. Oh, what happened here? 440. Come on, just focus. I don't want to accidentally get out of the app touching the button. Otherwise, all the data will be gone. All of a sudden, there's a bunch of motion. What's going on there? That's probably not under my control if I had to guess. Probably just like unconscious movements, getting more comfortable. What's interesting is that happened at 4:42. 4:29. Oh, I bet it, yeah. Interesting how it stayed there for such a long time. Like a suspiciously long time. Oh wow, at first I thought that 165 was the heart rate for a second. Um, let's see here. So 4:46. Anything happen at, yeah, a little bit of motion, but for a long time that I guess it supposedly justifies awake. I'm kind of curious if I actually woke up or if it was just that unconscious motion going on for a little while. That's kind of interesting. So, if I'm supposedly in REM, so I guess if the heart rate sort of goes up and it's consistently a little bit higher, then it's probably reasonable to think that I've gone into REM. And then if there's like motion and then all of a sudden no motion but the same heart rate, then it's reasonable to think that um, that motion was happening. So I think the rule is I have to be declared in REM for at least 15 minutes. And when it detects me coming out of it, I need to have stayed out of it for at least 5 minutes. Because if I dip back into it, then, well, clearly it's not over. And I'm probably in it the entire time. That's why I'd be interested to get this new device that's coming out of the market, maybe. I'd be interested to see if I'm still in REM mentally and stuff. So let's see what's. Okay, let's take a look at the end right here. See if there's anything special about the end of the cycle. It's 5:10. At 5:11, there's all of a sudden a little bit of motion. And this motion is added up over the course of 30 seconds. It collects motion twice per second for 30 seconds and adds it all up. That's what these XYZ last three digits are right there, the last three numbers. Motion over the course of 30 seconds. But it actually only collects 2 data points per second, and it doesn't like add it up or anything within there. It's whatever motion that happens to be at that moment. So if I'm collecting data once a second and I sneak in a bunch of fast motion, it won't pick that up. Unless there's a whole bunch of data points and it happens to collect motion there. So it's not going to be accurate, of course, but I can't really do anything about that. That's something that's not under my control. So I guess if there's motion, so I guess it declares that I'm in REM probably based on a slightly higher heart rate and no motion. Okay, so I guess I have to be declared in that for at least 15 minutes and then out for at least 5 minutes before it would go off. I think that's a pretty reasonable constraint to program, but I'm gonna look at more data just to kind of make sure and get a better idea. Um, so I don't actually remember waking up right here, but I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like I have a super vague memory of sometime before 7. But if I go to bed really late, it's going to be a lot harder to remember that. Let's assume for now that this was the case. I'm going to analyze data when I know for a fact that I had woken up from a dream and see what correlation there is there. What I'm curious about is light sleep and deep sleep don't really look a whole lot different. Other than maybe deep sleep having because like right there I had 52 at 5:16 and I wasn't in deep sleep supposedly. That's probably, I don't know if it's either right or wrong. Maybe it has to be maybe it has to do with how long I'm in it for. I don't know. I'm not even going to pay attention to that because I'm not doing anything with that. I probably shouldn't be paying attention to that too much because I could be dealing with false data. And that's not something you want to focus on a whole lot. Because, well, it's false data. That's pretty self explanatory. So, what happened at 6:39? Takes a little while to scroll, but actually, what happened. So, in these awake marks, I really do think that it's just movement while in REM, assuming that I am in REM to begin with. So, at 6:20. Yeah, I think there's just a little bit of movement. I could have been tossing and turning while dreaming for all I know. So, what happened at 6:39? Yeah, I think if there's motion for quite a while, like there is right, you can kind of see, even if though it's blurry, you see that it's not zeros. So there's motion, then yeah, I probably was awake during that time. I think it. You think it would be really accurate if I'm awake, but chances are it's probably not. Like if I'm in REM, or if I move in my sleep, it might declare me awake when in reality I'm probably not awake at all. So it could have either one of the components wrong. You never know. So yeah, I still think I'm gonna go with being in REM for at least 15 minutes, because towards the end of the night it's pretty much never shorter than 15 minutes, otherwise it's not a normal cycle. Um, and it never usually feels like it would be shorter than 15 minutes either with my dream recall and perception of time. I can usually tell if it's pretty short, but especially if I'm doing a while and I'm lucid the entire time and it happens to be shorter or something, then that could happen. So I'm going to be doing more analysis, but that's the idea of analyzing data now that I'm able to. So it collects up to 1,200 data points, which is equivalent to roughly 10 hours. And I'm probably not going to be in bed for that long, but I want it to be capable of that, obviously. So I like that doing that webcam better, even though I have to move it around a lot. Let's see when it actually stopped collecting data. Yeah, I like how I can just have the clock disappear if the data is in the way of it. Kind of proud of that extra little feature that was totally unnecessary. But yeah, just this alone went on for way longer than it should have. It's nothing but data collection. And I'm surprised the second remained 0 and 30 throughout the entire night. And that formula that I have right now does not look right. But that must have been what worked, so the data collection doesn't have to be perfect, especially since I'm doing it over the course of days. I'll adjust the code as needed. Right there I could tell I was definitely awake and got up for the day, because it's got motion and 3 digits for just about all axes. Even if it did get 4 digits, it'll just span onto another line. It's not really that big of a deal. So it collected data until it's at about 1:30. It still has data collection. Yeah, I can only fit so much on the screen, so I ended up almost like creating multiple virtual screens and then stacking them on top of each other and moving them relative to each other. That allows me to fit a lot more on the screen, and it actually works really well. I'm surprised it works as well as it does. I kept getting hung up on it, but the answer was, of course, really simple. I was just kind of overthinking stuff a little bit. Okay, sorry, I didn't see that till later. Okay, sounds good. Have a good rest of your day. I know you're probably gone, but chances are you'll see this later, so I'm wishing you a good rest of your day. So, looks like it went until 1:56. That's pretty reasonable amount of time. So now I can finally close this out because I'm done with today's data. So that's very interesting. I can finally take this off. I don't like to wear it most of the day, but I was doing it because of the data stuff and I didn't want my sensor doing weird stuff. So I'm going to put this back. So that was the analysis. So I don't know when I'm going to be doing this again. If I mess around with it some more, I might be doing it again if it makes sense to. So I think that'll be it for today. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to let me know. I'll try to get to you as soon as possible. Otherwise, yeah, I think that's it. So thanks for watching and have a good one. Peace.